All right, let's talk about the invisible architecture that pretty much runs our entire digital lives, the cloud. We're going to peel back the layers and look at the ethical blueprint that's supposed to be holding it all together. I mean, just think about it for a second. Right now, all your photos, your work files, your private messages, they're not really on your phone, are they? Nope, they live in the cloud. It's become this invisible foundation for, well, everything. But here's the thing. That foundation, it's not nearly as simple as it looks. It's actually built on a really complex mix of technical rules, moral values, and, some seriously tough compromises that are being made all the time. And that leads us to the big question we're tackling today. What exactly are those rules? And maybe more importantly, are they fair? Let's dig in and find out. Okay, so first things first. Let's imagine the master plan. If we could build the perfect cloud from the ground up, what would those guiding principles even be? What does that ideal blueprint look like? Well, right at the heart of it all, especially when we talk about security, is something called the CIA Triad. And no, not that CIA. This is like the absolute bedrock model for how your data is supposed to be protected. It boils down to three really simple but totally crucial ideas. You've got confidentiality, that's just keeping your data private. Then there's integrity, making sure nobody's messing with your data without you knowing. And finally, availability, which just means you can get to your stuff when you need it. Simple, right? But so powerful. So, how do you actually build something that follows those ideals? Well, it all comes down to a few core technical principles. You've got scalability. That's how a service can go from 10 users to 10 million without, completely falling apart. Then there's reliability and availability. Aiming for that 5 nines goal, that's 99.999% uptime. It's wild. And of course, things like resilience and interoperability are key, so the system can recover from problems and all the different parts can work together smoothly. The whole point is to build a foundation that just works. But, and this is a huge but, it's not all just about the tech. A truly ideal blueprint has a moral compass. It's guided by these core values, like transparency, so you actually know what's being done with your data, and responsibility, this shared idea that it's not just on the company, but on you, the user too, to keep things secure. So that's the dream, right? The perfect world scenario. But what happens when those shiny, ideal principles crash into messy reality? Well, that's where you start to see the cracks forming in that perfect blueprint. So let's kick things off with maybe the biggest dilemma of them all. I mean, we all love services that just know what we want, right? That feel super personalized. But what's the real price we're paying for that convenience when it comes to our privacy?
And this is the central conflict, isn't it? On one hand, you have data privacy, your basic right to control your own information. But on the other hand, you have data utility, companies using that data to build incredible tools. Think about it. A map app is useless without your location. An online store can't give you good recommendations without knowing what you've looked at. It's this constant, tricky balancing act.
And here's another one we bump into every single day. The battle between security and convenience. You know that whole dance? You type in a password, then you got to get a code on your phone, maybe even answer a security question. That's robust security. But just clicking one button to log in, that's pure convenience. We are always trading a little bit of one for the other. Oh, and the cracks in the code just keep going. What about surveillance versus safety? Is being watched all the time a fair price to pay for feeling secure? Or how about algorithmic bias? What happens when our AI starts learning and amplifying our own worst habits? And we haven't even touched on the massive environmental footprint of all these data centers. It's huge. Okay, so here's the really important part. These aren't just theoretical problems for tech people to debate. These choices, these dilemmas, they create these massive ripple effects that impact all of us on a global scale.
Let's start with the good stuff, the promise. And let's be clear, the cloud has been absolutely revolutionary. It's completely democratized technology. A tiny startup can now have the same raw computing power as a giant corporation. It connects us across the globe, puts basically all of human knowledge in our pockets, and fuels just incredible advances in everything from healthcare to science. But then there's the peril, the flip side of that coin. That exact same technology can make the gap between the rich and poor even wider. It can automate jobs out of existence. It can be used as a weapon to spread misinformation at terrifying speed. And yeah, all that data collection has created what a lot of people are calling a surveillance economy, where we're not the customer, we're the product. And a huge piece of this puzzle is the incredible concentration of power. We're talking about a handful, literally, a handful of companies that control a massive chunk of the world's data and the computing infrastructure that everything, and I mean everything, runs on. Which brings us to the final piece of our story today. How is society responding to all this? Well, people are trying to write a new global rule book. We're essentially trying to patch those cracks in the blueprint using laws and regulations.
And it's fascinating to see how different parts of the world are tackling this. You look at the European Union, and their GDPR gives people the powerful right to be forgotten. Then you've got California, where the CCPA gives you the right to opt out of your data being sold. And in the US, we've had rules like HIPAA protecting health information for a long time. Different approaches to the same big problem. And make no mistake, these rules aren't just paperwork. They've fundamentally changed how technology is designed and built. You have data sovereignty laws that mean data literally can't leave a country's borders. And then concepts like security by design from GDPR, that forces companies to build privacy protections in from the very start. It's not an afterthought anymore, it's a requirement.
So if there's one thing to take away from all of this, it's this. Building and using the cloud is so much more than just a technical challenge. You simply cannot separate the code and the hardware from the ethical choices, the societal impact, and the global rules we're all trying to figure out.
And that leaves us with one last really big question to think about. Technology is moving and evolving faster than ever before. I mean, it's just incredible. So the real question is, can our rules, can our ethics actually keep up?